I've created a battle box. And truthfully, I literally am putting the battles in the box and handing it over to the lawyers to fight for me, and I will get involved when I need to. But my focus is on what I've always focused on, rebuilding America one company at a time, one job at a time. And I want to focus on building value at my companies and eventually monetizing them. So I am putting those lawsuits in a box. I'm letting the lawyers fight them, and I am focusing against the background and the noise.
Well, I mean, Zohar wants loan records on the investment funds is what they're looking for. And they want more information in terms of how you operate the business. So you've got that. But at the same time, you say you're putting it in this box. You're also trying hard to push forward in terms of manufacturing jobs, push forward in terms of women's issues.
They're all part and parcel of my life. We have handed over all the books and records. I mean, that lawsuit is nonsense. It's noise. It's part and parcel of the whole MBIA campaign against Lynn, Tilton, and Patriarch Partners. We've followed the rules and the records of the management agreement. We used the lawyers. We provided over 10,000 pages of documents and hundreds of documents. So I can't pay attention to claims that I think are without merit and baseless. If they do have merit, then we try to fix them. But this is just additional noise to distract me and harass me when I have something very important to do, which is to lead my companies, lead my people, build value, and keep people working in America.
All right. So, and the Securities and Exchange Commission is still on hold in terms of after a judge put a stay on it in September. But the SEC is alleging that you committed fraud and misrepresented the health of investments.
That may be what they started claiming. That has certainly changed throughout the pleadings in the lawsuit, but basically their claims are ill-founded and they don't understand the investment strategy of Patriarch, which was fully disclosed. And I think when I finally get into a fair forum with an independent fact finder, that it will prove that these claims are without merit. You don't fight if you don't believe you're right. And I chose the fight. Unlike many other people who choose to settle and write checks, I felt very strongly that the claims were baseless and that in a fair forum that I would prove that they were without merit. And that was important to me because in the end, you build a career based on reputation and honesty. And it was very important for me to fight for truth.
Well, I think this is absolutely what people want to hear. And the fact is with all of these legal challenges that you've been faced with, you are moving forward and trying hard to develop your career elsewhere. Talk to us about what you're doing in terms of manufacturing.
Well, over the last 16 years, through my own personal investments and owning all the equity in the investment funds, we've owned 243 companies and restructured them. That's over 700,000 people's lives who are affected just with the jobs, no less their families. To me, that's what gives my life meaning. And that was done by buying companies on the cusp of liquidation, things that no one else wanted that were left for dead, and rebuilding that. And that's what was important to me, to prove that making money and making the world a better place weren't mutually exclusive options.
Yeah, because we're seeing all of this merger activity this week and this month and the last couple of years. And the reason is because there's no growth out there, no economic growth. Companies are going to acquire other companies to acquire growth, basically. And that's part of the issue here. But you're saying you see what the value is in that company. I mean, you've been an investment banker for a long time.
Over 35 years. I think we are going through an innovation revolution, and that this is truly a secular and structural change. I mean, both. And frankly, it all begins with product. And if you're not innovating and inventing product, you're going away. So people understand that this is a time of transition. Without completely changing the products you offer and having something that's innovative and spectacular, you will disappear. But we also have a disconnect in this country. We have very little GDP, if anything. We say we're at perfect employment. We say that there's consumer spending. We say there's a growth in consumer confidence, and yet it doesn't equal no GDP. So there's a definite problem in this country, and that's that we left. hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people behind in 2009 when we saw this crisis and we let small and mid-sized companies disappear and we let manufacturing leave the shores of this country. And the only way we build a meritocracy is by reschooling and retooling America for this innovation revolution and putting people back to work in good-paying jobs where they have dignity.
Because the truth is sort of the horse has left the stable when it comes to manufacturing. I mean, if a company can do something cheaper, they're going to do it. And this is also what's around the popularity of Donald Trump. He's talking all the time about jobs being lost because of what's going on, cheaper labor in Mexico, cheaper labor in China.
And it's more than just cheaper labor. There are other countries that actually subsidize raw materials, which is 70% of your costs in a manufacturing company. So if you can buy the raw materials cheaper in that country and labor's cheaper, well, then manufacturing disappears. So we need to do something in terms of industrial policy to inspire people to build things in America, to use the innovation revolution, to use new tools to do things in America, and to put people back to work.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point that you make. So when you look ahead in terms of where the jobs are, you're talking about jobs in engineering, jobs in technology. These are jobs that really require a certain skill set, require schooling and education. That's what you're talking about in terms of some kind of a policy required to get these people back to work, because we're not equipped right now.
No, we're not. And we need to turn our community colleges into smart manufacturing schools to give dignity to blue-collar work again. You know, artificial intelligence, robotics, sensors and chips, the Internet of Things, 3D design and printing. We can train people to be prepared for this. You know, coding, if you're a coder now, you can get a job.
Right.
Why are we not sending people to school to code? So we have to first face the problem and then find a solution. But we need to take people along with us on this ride, or you're going to have the anger and the violence in the streets. Jobs are the greatest meritocracy we can offer Americans.
For sure. So you are also a champion of women. So let's talk about women for a moment. Where do you see women and the women vote headed going into the election? What do you think women want to see in their next president?
I think that depends on the woman. You know, for me, I want the path to be easier for my daughter and for my daughter's daughters than it has been for me. And I think the openly misogynistic attacks from the top is not helpful because it sets a precedent.
Yeah.
And I believe that women's destinies will change when we begin to be kind to each other. So I want a world where women are not attacked when they have a chink in their armor, where other women don't go after women because they think it helps them bring them forward. So for me, the most important thing is that we choose based on the qualities, the intellect, the capability, and not whether someone is a woman or not a woman.
Do you feel that you've been attacked because you're a woman, because you were just different than all the other suits in whatever job it was? When you started at Morgan Stanley years ago, you founded this company, Patriarch Partners, in 2000. You've been among, suits your entire career. Is that one of the reasons you feel you were attacked?
I think that there's been a pile-on effect. I think when there's a chink in the armor, and there's absolutely a chink in my armor at this moment, it makes people think that you're vulnerable. And I think that it makes me very interesting to the media, and there's constant stories, a lot of which are rumor and innuendo and not true. And I think it allows men to sort of circle around thinking they can pick up what I've built. They think that weakness. And so I think when women are under pressure, they're treated very differently than men.
How hard was it for you to step down from a role at Patriarch Partners, a firm that you built, because of this bruising fight with MBIA?
Well, I didn't step down from Patriarch Partners. I mean, but from managing the funds. These were funds that I created. They're built on a patented model, that I invented many years ago. And I certainly, I have over 300 million of notes, and I'm the equity of all the funds. So walking away from it was not easy. but I thought it was in the best interest of the funds, which I've always said was my number one priority, that I felt the battle was impairing that. And it also gave me the opportunity to do what I love most, which is spend my time on the ground with my operating companies, leading my people, teaching them the trajectory to greatness, and trying ultimately to monetize these companies for the note holders.
And when you see companies and what they're up against, because you have this operating role and really working so closely with them, what do they say about the current environment right now? I mean, how would you characterize business? How do you characterize the sentiment out there? And do you think that there is growth? I mean, where is the growth in this economy right now?
I think business is very difficult. I mean, I have a certain sector of small and mid-sized companies, mostly manufacturing, but for me, growth only comes from innovation. I always say that everything begins with product, and there are only two things people want: design, to be enveloped in elegance, and disruption, to be excited by technology. And for me, it's reinvention now, not restructuring. And so if you can't take market share, then you really have no place to go. There is no natural growth in the markets. Mm-hmm. And we've seen even the market value of this nation sort of divide into all these new innovative companies like Uber and Facebook and Amazon and Apple. And you've seen so much of the industrial base lose all its value.
Right.
So we have to do something different. And I think that starting with the problem, and the fact that there really is no growth, that we have a manufacturing issue, that we have the populace of the permanently unemployed. Once we do that, we are a nation of innovation and high intellect, and we can begin a path forward that takes average American with us.
So what is step one on that? How do you get back to economic growth, in your view?
I think you have to create jobs. And
how do you do that?
I think you need an industrial policy that inspires people to build things in America, to build manufacturing facilities with innovation of process and reschooling the workforce to be a part of that. But a lot of people don't support that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the industrial sector arguably has been in recession, right? I mean, that's really where the weakness has been, in industrial, commodities, manufacturing, and a lot of people are blaming China.
Well, I think I've long said that I thought that we allowed China to take our manufacturing base. We did not stand up for fair trade. You know, we talk about free trade,
right,
but we don't talk about fair trade.
No, you're right.
And it is not about labor. It's about the subsidy of raw materials. As I said, 70% of your costs in the manufacturing sector is based on material. If there's a 30% subsidy of raw materials, that's 21 basis, 21 points of margin. You can't make that up with labor.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's why we are where we are, and we're in such a slow growth environment. Lynn Tilton is the founder and CEO of Patriarch Partners, and it is good to have you on the program this morning, Lynn.
It was my pleasure and honor.
Thank you so much, Lynn Tilton.